Hey everybody, today Reed and I are letting you know that we have turned on a very helpful AI feature for you in Canvas, and this is the Rubric Generator. So this feature will be viewable and usable by teachers. It's not something that students can use. You don't have to worry about that. But we've just turned on, there's different AI features we can turn on for this second summer term. We're turning on the AI generator. It's pretty much a no-brainer in being helpful and not so far not having a downside that we've seen, but definitely give us feedback after you've used it. I know a lot of you do use rubrics, and I also know that rubrics can take a long time to make, and this can really shorten the amount of time you have to spend making them. If you don't use rubrics, this might encourage you to take a look at them because once you've created an assignment, it uses anything you've put in the assignment to help build the rubric. You don't have to sort of duplicate a lot of the work. So definitely encourage you to look at this and consider using rubrics. Rubrics help instructors to assess assignments consistently and transparently from student to student. They also help you save time in grading, and they give timely, effective feedback that promote to student learning. They also clarify expectations and components of an assignment for students. And lastly, they can help you refine your teaching methods by evaluating your rubric results. And then rubrics help students as well because it helps them understand the expectations and components of any given assignment. It helps them become more aware of their learning process, and it helps them improve their work and learning through timely and detailed feedback. And so rubrics can really help you be very consistent in the type of grading you're doing. So uh, if you have any questions about it, always reach out to us. And for now, I'm going to hand it over to Regan, and he's going to show you where that AI rubric generator feature is in Canvas.
Okay, and so we are currently in the modules for a computer class, and we're going to generate a rubric. The good thing about this new rubric generator is it will generate rubrics in discussions, it will generate them in assignments, and it will generate them in quizzes. And so just really quickly before we start, I will demonstrate how to generate one in each of those three things, and then I'll pick an assignment and we will actually generate a rubric there. So if you want to look at discussions, uh, because it's a little bit different, the other ones are similar, but let's say we wanted to generate a rubric for this open forum discussion on module 2 here, then the first thing that we would do is open the discussion. And then here at the three dot menu where we'd edit the discussion, we're going to click on that. We're going to select add rubric. And when we do, we'll get the plus rubric button. And if you have rubrics already, you can add them here, but we're going to create one. So you'd click on create a rubric. And then this is your rubric generator. This is the first look at it. It's the same for all three different types of assignments, but this is where you would go in and generate a rubric for this discussion. So let's go ahead and
And,
cancel out.
and Regan, I have a question on that one,
Sir,
that field. So the little, yeah,
oops,
go back to that.
let me go back there. Sorry. Okay.
So the little next to the word auto generate, there's the little twinkle star kind of thing.
Yes.
Isn't that kind of the accepted icon these days for telling you that it's AI generated?
Yes, that is a standard for AI enabled, or I
Yeah,
guess that's what you call it now, is
yeah.
AI enabled.
Just for transparency's sake, because we don't want it to disappear that and when you are using an AI tool.
Exactly. And that's the thing. It definitely requires, like any AI, you have to be careful. You have to go back and make absolutely sure that everything in there is correct because
So the only way we know we're using AI is the little stars, right?
correct,
Okay.
correct.
All right, thanks.
All right, so let's go back and look at a different assignment, and then we can. This time we're going to look at a quiz. So let's look at this safety quiz here. This is the standard video safety quiz that everyone in Grayson is required to give. And if we wish to add a rubric to that, then down at the bottom, below the navigation buttons, we'll see the button that just exactly like we saw in discussions. It says add a rubric or find a rubric. If you've already got rubrics created that you want to add to this, you can click on find and it will allow you to browse through the rubrics you have created. But we're going to add one. So let's go ahead and click create rubric. Once again, we see our AI enabled rubric generator. So this time we're going to go ahead and go through it. The grade level it allows you to pick. Of course, this will be higher education since this is Grayson. Number of criteria. These are the number of things that you're actually grading on. In this case, we're going to do 5. Um, Probably don't want to do too many more than that. Number of ratings. This is the point spread, basically 4 points, 3 points, 2 points, 1 point, however you want to do that. And then the total points are the amount of points that the assignment is worth. And so it will divide up your points based on how you score the rubric. This is the place that you would enable or you would put the prompt. Now, notice it's optional. If you don't put a prompt in here and you click the generate button, it's going to look at whatever material is available in the assignment and it's going to generate a rubric based on that. So this is the standard that you're using for your outcomes, for your assignments. And then additional prompt, if you want to add other conditions, for example, what they offer is you're targeting a college level seminar or you're focusing on argument substance. However you want to add or modify the general prompt here, you can add that information down here. We're not going to add a prompt,
That's
basically.
very interesting that it says, for example, be lenient.
Yeah,
That's an interesting kind. I mean, and that's good. It's
it
just that
is.
that's really interesting. It makes me think we're going to have to try these a couple. You might want to, or can we try more than one
We
rubric
can generate. That's
generation just to see, like, what if I say be lenient? How does that change the rubric? I'm curious about that.
That is the magic of the rubric generator is because
Mhm.
we can generate the starting point basically for
Mhm.
the rubric. We're generating, and that's what we're doing. We're generating starting points. But because we generate that with AI, it speeds up the process a
Yeah.
lot compared to having to sit down and generate these your own self. So
Yeah.
let's go ahead and first of all, let's just do it blank. Let's just give ourselves a baseline. And so we're going to go with the default settings. We're not going to add anything in there. We're just going to hit generate criteria,
Mhm.
and it will take a few seconds. It's thinking about what it's doing. It's going and looking at, since this is a quiz, it's looking at the questions.
Mhm.
It's looking at the questions and it's determining what it thinks the best uh, things would be, what the
Uh,
best outcomes would be for each of the questions. And so now, basically, like I said a while ago, there's 100 points possible. So it divided up the points based
mhm.
on the number of outcomes that we suggested, and 0 through 3, which is 4 total.
Mhm.
That's the scale that we gave it, and we didn't offer any other information. So the
Mhm.
first one that it came up with demonstrates understanding of safety concepts presented in the video, which
Mhm.
that makes perfect sense. Exceptional would be evaluates the video content, constructs an insightful response that synthesizes key safety principles. Notice it uses the verb from uh, Bloom's.
Mhm.
Proficient analyzes the video, explains the main safety context, and also it uses another verb. Uh,
Mhm.
Explains them with coherent and clarity, and then developing, this is you're getting there, summarizes is a lower level verb in Bloom's, and then
Mhm.
finally recall is the lowest level in Bloom. That's just basically memory
Mhm. Yeah.
generation there. So it
Yeah.
uses
Mhm.
kind of Bloom's taxonomy.
Yeah, it's using Bloom's levels. Yeah.
And so it does that for each of the outcomes. So the second one provides complete, well-reasoned answers. So it judges how the student answered the questions, and then expresses safety information or evaluates safety information and its significance, expresses ideas clearly, logically, and with appropriate academic language, and then
Right.
finally submits the responses by the due date. So it also grades whether or not it's late or whether they've turned it in based
Yeah.
on And it will modify that based on how you set up due dates and if you've
Mhm.
allowed for late submissions.
Yeah.
So if we don't like what we see, we say
Mm.
that's a complete miss, then we can click the regenerate button and it will completely regenerate the outcomes based on its own, the way it thinks.
I have a question. So
Yes,
we
sir.
put five criteria. That's why I put those five
That is
criteria.
correct. That is
So
correct.
it looks like there's a trash can on each one. You could so just click on the one for timeliness.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to delete this
Yeah.
outcome. So we
Yeah.
want to click the trash can, delete that criteria, and
Yeah.
now we only have four.
Okay. And then
If
or
we,
I'll
oh,
go ahead.
I was going to say, if we wanted to change one of these or add to or edit one of these criteria, then we can
Mhm.
click on the pencil button,
Okay.
and that will allow us to edit the text. It will allow us to edit the scale. It will allow us to basically edit whatever we choose to edit. If we like, let's say we like three of them, but we
Hmm.
don't like the way this last one is, but we want some ideas to help us generate another one. We
Hmm.
can click regenerate for each of the individual criterion as well.
Yeah.
So you can regenerate the whole thing, or you can regenerate individual criterion, or you can edit them on your own, or you can duplicate them. Let's say we wanted to add a criterion. We click on duplicate and it will duplicate this one for communication. And then, of course, we would go in and edit that criterion, make it another topic, make it another outcome, and then add different point scales.
Yeah. And so the teacher's going to have to evaluate, use their judgment skills on seeing if the rubric fits their assignment type.
Exactly.
For
And
example,
once, go
this
ahead.
is the safety video quiz, correct?
Yes,
So it's probably multiple choice, right?
correct.
So because this rubric looks like it's for written, like it's evaluating a written response.
Yes.
Right. But it's a good example. So you'd have to use your judgment to go, well, that's maybe not the kind of rubric I'd want to use on that particular multiple choice quiz. But
Yeah. If you wanted to look at the rubric as the student sees it or as it's going to appear in Canvas,
uh,
if you click on the preview rubric link here, this is what it will look like uh,
okay.
in your view. Now, if you wanted to look at it as a student, then of course you would go ahead and create it. This will allow you to save the rubric and it
Mhm.
will assign it to whatever assignment that you started building the rubric in. And that's how you can decide. It will also save it into like a test bank of rubrics. So if you chose to use this same framework for another assignment,
Mhm.
you could do that. And that's where that search rubric button
Mhm.
comes from. If you want to add a new uh, criterion without duplicating, you don't want
Mhm.
to use the duplicate button up here. You can add
Mhm.
a blank criterion down here. Also, if you want to look at the outcomes and create the criterion from the outcomes that you may have, if you have outcomes already generated for your assignment, you can use this button to look at those outcomes. But at that point, once you're happy with the way the rubric looks, then you would click on Create Rubric,
Mhm.
and it will take you back to the assignment. It may take it a second because what it's doing is it's saving the content to the assignment
Mhm. Yep.
sometime today, I hope. Oh, sorry. You know what we forgot to do?
Name. What's the
We did
name?
not name it. That is on me. So, oops. Fortunately, it
Yeah, I caught it.
stood there and caught that. And now let's try saving it. That was my fault. All right, rubric saved successfully. And you'll see down here within the assignment, there
Mhm.
is the rubric. If you want to look at it, you can click
Mhm.
on preview rubric and it will show it to you.
Okay.
This is the traditional view. There are other ways you can look at it. If you want to see it as the student sees it, then you would click on view as student. And this would give you the student view of the assignment.
Mhm.
Oops, but the student can't see it till afterwards. Apparently, I didn't realize that. Let's see. if we take the quiz as a student. No, the student can't see it until afterwards.
Yep.
So the student does not get to see the rubric until afterwards. I did not know that.
On the quiz.
Yes, on a quiz, the student can't see it till afterwards. Really quickly, let's go generate another one for an assignment. Okay. Wait, that's a quiz, sorry. An assignment. There we go. Okay, and it's the same process. Down at the bottom, we have a create rubric button.
Mhm.
Click on that. I'm just going to generate very quickly the criteria, leave it as all default.
So it's reading what's in the assignment right now,
It
right?
is looking at the assignment.
Yep.
It is going through the process. This one may be a little more complicated because it's a longer assignment.
Mhm.
And then I'm going to go ahead and give it a name, as I forgot last time. And now we've got motherboard identification. Basically, what this is a hands-on assignment that allows the student to go through and look at a computer motherboard and identify the different parts. And so basically it generated a 5-step rubric just like we expected it to. We left the number of point ratings the same, so it kept that the same. I'm going to go ahead and save it, and let's go see if we can see that as a student.
Did that rubric look like it was good for that assignment?
It did. As a matter of fact, it's exactly what this assignment is supposed to be. All right, now you'll notice number one that in an assignment, the student has access to the rubric before they complete the assignment. So they know exactly what's expected of them in the assignment. That's not the case in quizzes. They don't get to see the rubric before the quiz is done. You'll also notice up here that is not used for grading. And that may be a video for another time, but you can set these rubrics to allow you to use them in the grading process, and that will help you generate your feedback for your students.
Yeah, yeah.
But this one is not used for grading. Basically, the students would go in, they would read the assignment instructions, they would look through the rubric to see what was exactly required of them. And then as they were doing the assignment, they could go back in and make sure that they were performing the operations according to what your expectations are. And so that is the way that you would generate a rubric for each of the 3 main assignments within Canvas. That's for a quiz, for a discussion, and also for a regular assignment.
Thank you, Regan. Is there anything else faculty should know?
At this point, no. That will allow you to generate a rubric for just about any type of assignment you come up with, as long as it has content in the material. Now, there's one thing, it just dawned on me. If you are using Cengage, or if you are using a third-party content provider, it will not be able to go out and view that content. So if you're sending them to Cengage MindTap, for example, you'll have to bring that content, at least the material itself, over into Canvas and generate the rubric from that. So you may have to generate your rubric manually instead of using the AI, because it won't be able to read, it won't be able to get past the login wall to read the Cengage content.
Okay, great. Awesome.
All right, let me stop.
Well, thank you. Definitely, if you aren't using rubrics, you should give this a try. There's no reason not to try it, and think about using rubrics in your class. If you are using rubrics, hopefully this will streamline your process. As always, we'd love to hear feedback from teachers out there in the field actually using it. Like to hear how, if it's going well, if it's not. Reach out and let us know. Thank you.
Have a good day.